Hello everyone, it's Mariners Fanatic back with another YouTube video, and today will be the first video in a series of videos leading up to the trade deadline at the end of July. As you can see from the title, today this video will be focusing on the worst of Jerry Dipoto's trades in his tenure as GM for the Seattle Mariners. This is opinion based, but there's a little bit of stats to back it up. But if you think there was a trade he made that was worse, put it in the comments down below and we can talk about it. So we're just going to jump right in because there's a lot to get to in this video. It's kind of going to be a top 5 of sorts. So starting out with number 5 on my top 5 worst Jerry Dipoto trades, we have almost every single trade he has made with the Tampa Bay Rays. Jerry Dipoto has made it a theme of trading with the Rays. We've probably made close to about 10 trades with them over the past 5 or 6 years, and only one of them has turned out well for us, which would be the Alex Colomé and Denard Span trade. Those two players really helped us out on our run at the wild card in that respective year. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but they were productive and helped us win a lot of games. So that was a good trade. But getting into the bad trades, starting off in 2015, we traded Danny Farquhar, Brad Miller, and Logan Morrison to the Rays for Nate Karns, Boog Powell, and CJ Reifenhauser. Boog Powell and Reifenhauser never panned out and did not make it up to the big leagues with the Mariners. But the real piece that we were looking at in this trade was Nate Karns. He had a good year for the Rays in 2015, but that was short-lived. He had a rough 2016 with the Mariners, and his career did not last much longer than that. Now, this is definitely not the worst of the 4 trades that I'll be talking about with the Rays. Danny Farquhar was solid, but he wasn't like super special or anything like that. Logan Morrison, good platoon bat, had a decently successful career, but nothing crazy. And then Brad Miller was not amazing, but he's had a fairly productive career as a lefty platoon bat. This year he's doing well with the Phillies. Last year he did fairly well with the Cardinals. So overall, this trade was not terrible because we didn't get fleeced or blown out of the water in this trade, but we traded away 3 decently productive players for 2 guys who didn't make it to the big leagues and Nate Karns, who unfortunately just did not pan out. The second trade we're going to be talking about was in 2016. We traded Dylan Thompson, Andrew Kittredge to the Rays for Taylor Motter and Richie Schaefer. Richie Schaefer never made it to the big leagues for us, and Taylor Motter had very, very limited success. He had a ton of pop, played solid defense, but in the end, he couldn't get that bat going for average with consistency and did not pan out with us. On the flip side, Dylan Thompson did not make it to the big club for the Rays. However, Andrew Kittredge has become a very important piece of their bullpen, and this year he is doing very well. He pitched against us last week, and we got to see that 98-mile-an-hour sinker that could have been up with our big club. Not the worst of the worst, because it's just a reliever, but still not a great trade. A couple months after, in 2017, we traded Carlos Vargas, Malik Smith, and Ryan Yarbrough to the Rays for Drew Smyly. Now this one was tough as Smyly got injured, had to have surgery, and the whole season was lost. We never got to see him on the field in a Mariners uniform during the regular season. The only reason why this trade is not higher is because if Smyly was healthy, it likely would have been a solid trade. Unfortunately, things didn't go our way. But this trade belongs on the list because Ryan Yarbrough has turned into a solid rotation option for the Rays, and Malik Smith had his one breakout year with the Rays. Carlos Vargas never made it up to the big club, but the Rays got a lot of value out of Malik Smith and Yarbrough. In 2018, we traded Michael Plasmeyer, Guillermo Heredia, and Mike Zunino to the Tampa Bay Rays for Jake Fraley and Malik Smith. Malik Smith was a huge bust. He had a great year in 2018 with the Rays. You thought you were getting an all-star caliber center fielder. In 2019, he struggled with defense, which was surprising, and the bat was not great either. Mike Zunino has continued to be himself. He doesn't hit for high average, but he hits for a lot of pop, especially against lefties, and he's great behind the plate. Guillermo Heredia didn't lose a whole lot there, but he was a productive outfielder, kind of in a platoon role and defensively. Michael Plasmeyer has not made it to the majors yet, as far as I know. The only way this trade gets turned around is if Jake Fraley turns into an all-star player. We've seen flashes of it so far this year. Last year was a real struggle for him, but he's turned it around this year, and it's exciting to see if he can continue that trend. And then this trade won't look so bad. But there you have it. Long-winded, but at number 5 we have the 4 trades with the Tampa Bay Rays that did not go our way. Moving on to number 4. We traded Pablo Lopez and a couple other minor leaguers to the Marlins for David Phelps. Phelps is a good reliever, but he only pitched 8.2 innings for the Mariners and ended up having season-ending Tommy John surgery. Another case of the injury bug with this one. It's extremely unfortunate. Again, this likely might have been a better trade if Phelps had been able to pitch a full season and maybe we could have re-signed him, something like that, but unfortunately it did not pan out. Pablo Lopez, on the other hand, last year he looked to start to break out, had a good season in 2020, helped the Marlins reach the playoffs, and this year he's doing it again. Personally, if I was trading for a relief pitcher, I would trade kind of a lower level prospect. Not that Pablo Lopez was super high on our top 30 list or anything like that. However, he was closer to the big leagues. And considering our pitching depth at the time, I think it would have been a better idea to keep Pablo Lopez and maybe trade somebody else. Because if you look at 2019, our rotation was rough. Last year wasn't much better, and even 2018 was kind of meh. So that's number 4. Again, the injury bug hurting us in this trade, but still not a great trade. Moving on to number 3. Now, you've probably seen this one recently. This is the 5-year anniversary of it about a week ago. But in 2016, Chris Taylor was traded to the Dodgers for Zach Lee. Now, Zach Lee did not play for the Mariners at all. He had 2 brief stints with the Dodgers in 2015 and the Padres in 2017. And currently, he's in AAA with the Diamondbacks. So maybe he'll get lucky and get called up, seeing as how the Diamondbacks are struggling right now. Meanwhile, Chris Taylor has played in 573 games for the Dodgers, with a 266, 346, 464, 810 slash line in respect, batting average, on base, slugging, and OPS. Whereas in Seattle, he had a 240, 296, 296, 593 slash line with a 71 OPS plus, which was not ideal. And in LA, he had a 117 OPS plus. In Seattle, he only played in 86 games. He struggled in the infield with his defense, and the hitting was not there most of the time. Now, it's hard to get too mad because at the time you could probably justify the trade. However, Chris Taylor was drafted in 2012. Zach Lee was drafted in 2010 and was a first rounder. But to that point, Zach Lee had been struggling and hadn't really proven anything. To me, I would not be taking a flyer on a guy like Zach Lee and just giving up that quick on Chris Taylor. Of course, I'm probably biased because I watched him play at Everett, single A affiliate with the Mariners, but he made it up to the big club in 2014. He was a very fast riser through the Mariners system, and so I feel like they didn't give him a fair shot at developing. Also, the Dodgers used him more in the outfield. He was a utility guy, so he still played some infield, but he was really good in the outfield defensively, and he's backed that up with his hitting since being in LA. This trade's extremely unfortunate. I really liked Chris Taylor. It was sad to see him go, and then he started to pop off for the Dodgers and has been playing well for them ever since. He's been a very important piece of not only their World Series team last year, but the teams they've had the years before. If someone goes down, he's there to fill in. So that's number 3. Moving on to number 2 on this list is the D. Gordon trade in 2017, where we traded Nick Nader, Robert Duggar, and Chris Torres for D. Gordon. Chris Torres is no longer playing. Robert Duggar, we actually got back from the Marlins, and he's been up and down between AAA and the big club this year, and he's done okay at times, but not great. And then Nick Nader, in 24 innings so far, has pitched to a 5.55 ERA with the Marlins last year and this year combined, but there's still plenty of time for him to develop. Pablo Lopez struggled out of the gate and has turned into a solid rotation piece for that Marlins ball club. This could come back to bite us even more if Nader continues to develop. But the big loss here is in D. Gordon and his performance with the Mariners. In 3 years, he played 291 games with the Mariners. He batted .266 with 7 home runs, 73 RBIs, which from him I'm not expecting a ton of home runs or RBIs, but his on base and slugging were terrible, and his 76 OPS plus over those 3 years is well below average. Also, we paid almost $30 million for D. Gordon to be a below average player. This trade was not good, more in terms of financial and what we got, because like I said already, we paid $30 million for D. Gordon to have a 76 OPS plus and be a below average hitter, and watch as his defense started to decline as well. And without further ado, we'll get into the number one worst trade in Jerry Dipoto's time as GM, was trading Freddie Peralta and another minor leaguer for Adam Lind. Now, Adam Lind had a decent year in his 1 year with the Mariners. I went to a game where he hit a walk-off home run. That was pretty awesome. And Lind was a productive piece of that 2016 team that almost made the playoffs. However, Lind was at the very tail end of his career. He only played one more season with the Nationals in 2017, and then he retired. Meanwhile, for his career so far, Freddie Peralta is 23-10 with a 3.91 ERA, a 109 ERA plus, 3.45 FIP, and a 12.2 K per 9, which is really good. But in 2021, he is breaking out even more. He's 7-2 with a 2.11 ERA, 192 ERA plus, 2.8 FIP, 0.86 WHIP, and a 12.7 K per 9. He's having an insane season so far on a Brewers pitching staff that already has Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. And the reason why I think this is the worst trade out of them all, even though Adam Lind was productive for us, is if I were GM, I would not trade young prospects for veteran players. If I want veteran players, I would sign them out of free agency or get them off the waiver wire. I would not trade for them. Maybe in a rare occurrence if the deal was right. But to me, looking at Adam Lind, who only played for one season for the Mariners, versus a guy like Freddie Peralta, who was a solid prospect. It wasn't like he was bad or anything. He was doing really well in the minors. So for me, if I were GM in this situation, I probably would not have gone for this trade. But then again, I don't claim to know as much as Jerry Dipoto. I don't claim to know how to do his job better than he does. However, this is one where if I was a GM, I probably wouldn't go for it. That's going to be the end of the top 5 kind of worst trades in Jerry Dipoto's tenure as general manager, as Jerry Dipoto has definitely not made as bad trades as some of the GMs we've had in our history. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, comment below your thoughts on the video and what you think of this list and maybe some others you can think of. I went through the whole Baseball Reference transaction history of the last 5 years, and these are the trades that I came up with, so I don't think I missed anything. But if you think I did, let me know. And stay tuned in the next week or two for the next video in this series talking about Jerry Dipoto and his 5 best trades as GM. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Mariners Fanatic, out.